thank you for that very kind and generous introduction. Dennis, Father Marco, very reverend fathers, ladies and gentlemen, good friends all. When I was invited to speak to you this afternoon by Father Marco, I was really pleasantly surprised. My usual audiences are either investor or national security groups. Aerospace and defense executives are not always well received by general audiences, particularly so when the armed forces are deployed in unpopular conflicts. Americans have always exhibited some ambivalence towards defense, and in fact towards the defense industry. We as Americans may feel a good deal of pride watching aircraft carriers deploy to trouble spots on the evening news. We are proud of our ability to project power and influence in faraway places, but at the same time, many Americans hold feelings of mistrust and suspicion towards national defense. For that portion of the population, the military-industrial complex is at best a necessary evil. In the early patriotic charge days of deployment, the industrial base that supports the military often is embraced as the arsenal of democracy. At these times, the industrial base gives Americans pride in the technical superiority and industrial might of America. However, as a conflict continues, goals are not clearly met, and casualties mount, support naturally wanes. Political leaders bear the brunt of the criticism, followed very shortly thereafter by defense executives. Once embraced as the arsenal of democracy, defense contractors are derided as war profiteers. Given this ambivalence and the current unpopularity of the deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, I am grateful for the warm welcome I have received here today. I suspected when I was invited to speak here that I was not invited to speak on questions of national security or government policy, but rather to share with you a more personal story. Well, let me give it a try. Mine is the story of an immigrant's grandson, and the story of a person with the strongest of possible ties to St. Sava Church. My story begins in 1905 when my grandfather, Mila Chabraja, then age 19, and his very good friend, Theodore Lukács, immigrated together from the Krajina, passing through Amsterdam and arriving at Ellis Island. The Serbs of that area had for generations been a buffer population in the military frontier between the Austro-Hungarian and Turkish empires. Not a very good place to be. As the Ottoman Empire waned, their services as border guards were no longer of economic value, and the land could not support large families. My grandfather was the youngest of 7 children. It was time to go. It is clear that these 2 young men emigrated for economic rather than political reasons, looking for work in the rapidly developing industrial America. It is equally probable, although I'm not sure, that they intended to stay in the United States only long enough to earn sufficient capital to return home and to improve their families' lives back in the old country. Well, my grandfather and his friend made their way to northwest Indiana, where a new city, Gary, Indiana, was being developed to accommodate a massive steelworks being built by U.S. Steel. They found good jobs at this industrial site and made good friends with other Serbs, many of whom had immigrated from neighboring villages and were well known to them. I am sure, I am positive, that they did not understand that they were taking part in the largest wave of Serbian immigration to the United States that ever occurred, unmatched before or since. That was between 1880 and 1914. While they found work and were generally respected for their work ethic, all was not easy. Working conditions were difficult at best, labor strife was common, and newcomers from Eastern Europe were resented, deeply resented, by those who had previously immigrated from Western Europe. In fact, the new city of Gary was a rough and tumble place, much more of a frontier town than its sophisticated neighbor to the west, Chicago. Probably consistent with his original intention, Teodor Lukács returned to his village, Gabić Selo, in the Krajina. My grandfather remained and decided to make a life in the United States, for which I will remain eternally grateful.